Welcome to Module 3, Part A. In this model, I will introduce the diamond model. A quick reminder of where we are. We are within the screening dimension of the 4S model. We have seen previously the 8-feature model that focuses on organizational and management aspects of the project. The kinetic model, on the other hand, focuses on the project and its context. So the kinetic model really is suitable for projects in which contexts are shifting. And now we will present the diamond model that is a bit more specific because it looks at complexity related to both the project and the product. The diamond model is a model that helps us to understand and to differentiate different types of complexity associated to projects. The focus is not only on the organization of the projects, but also on its product. The diamond model recognizes that one size does not fit all. That is, we need to tackle differently projects that have different forms of complexity. And this is why we say that it is an adaptive framework. It is useful for different types of projects. The diamond model helps project managers to appreciate upfront the extent of uncertainty and complexity involved in a project. It helps to adapt their management style to the situation. This means that the diamond model helps project managers to ask the right questions and foresee danger before making commitments, and before it is too late, of course. The diamond model guides project teams in adapting their management style to the specific situation. The diamond model is based on 3 dimensions: complexity, uncertainty, and pace. In terms of complexity, the diamond model looks at the complexity of the project. That is, it looks at the scope of the project. This refers to the number of tasks and the degree of interdependency among those tasks. Uncertainty refers to 2 types of uncertainty: uncertainty related to the technology or to the tasks, and uncertainty related to the market. This means that uncertainty is really how much we do not know about the technology or tasks. Will our technology will work? Do we know how to do these tasks? And regarding market uncertainty, we need to answer the questions regarding who are our customers, where are located, and what is the size of our market. Finally, pace is about the time dimension of the model. It refers to the nature of deadlines. Are the deadlines rigid or are the deadlines flexible? The diamond model then have 4 dimensions: novelty, technological uncertainty, complexity, and pace. Novelty indicates how new the project's product is to the customers and how clear and well defined the initial product requirements are. Technology is determined by how much new technology is required in order to develop your project. Complexity, in simple terms, measures complexity of the product, refers to the complexity of the product, complexity of the tasks, and complexity of the organization of the project. Pace represents the urgency of the project, how much time there is to complete the project. Novelty is defined by how new is the product of your project to the market and its potential users. This means that novelty represents the extent to which customers are familiar with the project's product, how to use it, and what are the benefits of the product. Novelty then is useful because it can help to define the requirements of the project that customers need upfront. This means that novelty affects the development of your project in three ways. First, the reliability of market research. Second, the time it takes to define and freeze product requirements. And finally, the specific market strategies of the product. The launch of a smartwatch is a very good example of novelty. In this case, before this smartwatch, the Apple smartwatch, there was no market. They had to create a market. So there were no clear product specifications and there was no market data. And if we realize in this product, the technology was new. However, the product was really new to the world. It didn't exist before Apple launched its first smartwatch. This means that in marketing terms, there was no prediction of sales. It's difficult to know the size of the market and who will buy the demographics of potential users or customers. This means that there was significant market uncertainty. And was related by the question of how new the product is to your market. Project complexity is related to the structural complexity associated to the scope of the project. That is, project complexity is related to the number of elements that the project have, the number of interrelations, the number of subsystems and systems that the project have. The higher the number, the more complex. We are talking here about structural complexity. Project complexity in these terms is important because it affects the organization of the project and the formality of project management. A very good example of the complexity dimension in the dynamo model is the design and manufacturing of the Z3 model. As we know, this model was designed in Germany and manufactured in the US when it was first launched. This project required the integration of many subsystems that were produced by internal and external subcontractors. This involves adapting to different organizational cultures, remember, design in Germany and manufacturing in the US, adapting an organizational matrix structure with cross-functional teams. This was a new organizational arrangement. They use lean manufacturing techniques and they had to produce more than 150 integration testing prototypes in order to make sure that all the parts were correct. The parts for the initial units were made in Germany and the integration was made in the US. This helped the teams to identify and solve design and manufacturing problems early in the product's cycle. This is an example of how a company managed an unusual degree of complexity. Success resulted from building the right organizational structure, and in this case was a matrix of organizational structure. This included extensive integration efforts, a large number of prototypes, and changing the culture of the organization. Technology uncertainty is related to how much new technology is used on our project. Technology uncertainty is the extent to which we know if we will be able to do a technical task or if we know the outcomes of that task. It is related to how much new technology is required to do a project. This means that technology uncertainty have an impact on the design and testing stages of the product, on communication and interaction among team members, on the timing of design freeze, and on the number of design cycles that we need in order to develop our project. This slide summarizes the concept of technological uncertainty. Please read it on your own time. This is an example of a project with high levels of technological uncertainty. Because it is based in totally new technologies, it is difficult to know, for example, how many design cycles are necessary, or when is the right time to freeze the design of the project, or how many testing phases, cycles are necessary to do this. The Hyperloop is a project that is being developed in the US, and it is still on the development stages, and they have high level of technological uncertainty. Pace is related to time. How urgent is your project? How much time is available to achieve the goals of the project? How time impact the organization of your project? A classical example of the importance of the pace dimension in the diamond model is the case of the Katrina cyclone. As we know, in 2005, Cyclone Katrina hit Louisiana. It was, it was not only the greatest natural disaster in the US, but also a wake-up call. Government are responsible for the safety and well-being of its population. US government agencies were very slow to respond and act. It took federal government agencies 4 days to begin acting. And this means that for 3 days, people in Louisiana live in rooftops with little food and water. For 3 days, there were looting and chaos because police was unable to enter to the city. Only on the fourth day, the military trucks and National Guard troops entered to the city to restore order. What really happened in this case is that the government learned too late about the extent of the disaster. They wait for too long to hear from local authorities about what type of help they need. Because there was no information, they did not take action. They assumed no information means good news. That is wrong. However, during the catastrophe, the first hours are critical. You can save most lives during the first hours after a catastrophe. Significant impacts on the outcome of that catastrophe happen in the first hours after the catastrophe. In reality, in these situations, there's no time to develop plans. There is no time to wait for additional information. In crisis situations, it is necessary to act. So it is necessary to have possible scenarios in order to advance actions. It is necessary to have contingency plans ready. It is necessary to prepare equipment and people for emergencies. This means that we need to be able to act without a major plan. The key point is to take actions, to provide local leaders with authority and autonomy and resources in order to act on the spot. And this is what we call organized improvisation. That is, we need to have plans and we need to rehearse those plans. We need to think in possible scenarios and we need to act on those possible scenarios. The key point here is that time is a crucial aspect for the success of the project. The diamond model is a framework that helps project managers to make decisions regarding how to run projects. Decisions about, for example, selecting the right project, selecting the right manager, assessing risks, and selecting the right project management style. The diamond model, therefore, helps to map the level of complexity associated to each dimension. By combining each project dimension, we can create an adaptive model. This means that the dynamo model can be useful to show the type of project in which we are working. It may help to communicate key features of the project. That is, it may help to communicate the risks and benefits of the project. The dynamo model also may help to analyze the fit between the required project management model and the actual project management model. That means that it is a graphical tool that helps to show the gaps, how it should be the project and how it is being done. And this is important because it helps to communicate to the whole team and to other external stakeholders the gaps that may exist in our project. For example, the dynamo model can help us to map the gaps that exist in the project between the actual style and the required style. In this slide, we can see that the dotted lines represent the actual style of the project, and the red line represents the required style of the project. This means that there is a gap in terms of technology uncertainty and complexity of the project. By showing this figure to your stakeholders and to the team members, we can convince and we can ask, for example, for additional resources and additional time. Each dimension of the dynamo model represents a different type of risk and benefits. Regarding novelty, for example, highly novel projects create big opportunities for business, for example, new markets or being the first in the market, but also represent larger risks, such as, for example, recovering the initial investment, or attracting quickly many customers. High technological uncertainty also means using more advanced product and advanced technology. However, high risk of technology immaturity may happen if the technology is not ready. In a similar way, complexity also brings risks and benefits. The larger the project, the larger the payoffs, but also the larger the risk in technical and organizational terms. It may be significant difficulties to integrate new technologies, for example. Regarding pace, also the higher the pace involves greater risk of making mistakes. Each one of these dimensions affects the project in different ways. Novelty, for example, affects the accuracy of market predictions, affects the ability to determine requirements of the product, affects the ability to determine the timing of the freeze point of the project. In a similar way, high-tech levels need a higher number of development activities, more design cycles, later freeze design points, and higher number of interaction between team members. Complexity of projects, on the other hand, affects the organization and its procedures. This means that the more complex the project, the more complex the organization of the project, the higher the level of formality of procedures to organize the project. And the pace means that faster pace requires greater autonomy of teams in order to work your project. In summary, there are many ways to differentiate different forms of complexity associated to projects. This is only one. The key is that project managers need to know how to recognize that there are different projects that need different management styles and different resources and different ways of organizing work. So it is necessary to adapt management styles, resources, and how do we organize a project considering the unique situation of our project And one way to consider the unique situation of our project is by using the diamond model to see the unique situation of the project in terms of technology, complexity, novelty, and pace.